Hello everyone, Eli here from Nintendo Network 64. Today I wanted to talk about a new article I came across from the New York Times of all places, and I want to criticize it a little bit. It's about video games. Now the article is called Why Some Men Don't Work. Video games have gotten really good. And the premise of the article, I'll link it in the bottom in the description as well so you can go read it for yourself, is that people, men specifically, and younger men, aren't working as much and are working less than their female or adult counterparts, specifically because of video games, and that because video game time for this demographic group is increased, they're not working as much. This article is based off a new study that came out from the University of Chicago, and talked about that this could be one of the reasons why men are not working as much. Now, I am very annoyed by this article. First of all, let me preface this by saying that I have a lot of respect for the Upshot. It's a column from the New York Times that does a lot of statistical analysis. They do a lot of political analysis during the elections that are usually pretty spot on. They have good statisticians. They have good data journalists. And I'm just kind of surprised that they would publish an article like this that is so blatantly false. And this isn't just me being... I mean, obviously I have a bias. I'm a gamer, so I want to defend games. And that's kind of the way a lot of us look at things, but I'm going to be looking at this from an unbiased perspective and just poking holes in the argument here on why this article is so flawed, and why framing the article the way it is, that games cause people to not work, is very disingenuous to what's actually going on. So what they did, first of all, for the numbers themselves, they went and looked at the number of leisure time that people had in the year 2000 versus today, or I think 2015 is the year they used. And what they found is that for virtually every demographic group, the number of leisure time went up. But specifically for men, the gaming is what increased, as opposed to other demographic groups, older men or women, that didn't go up. And so the conclusion was that because of this, people were dropping out of the labor force to play video games, or taking on less hours. And on average, young men are working about 30 hours a year less, so almost a full work week less than older men. And this premise has a few flaws. First of all, number one, correlation does not equal causation. This is one of the most basic things you learn in literally any statistical course you'll ever take. Just because two numbers are related does not mean that necessarily... just because two numbers are related does not mean that one causes the other. There's always other factors that can be involved. There could just be random chance, and there are other variables that could account for both phenomenon. For example, you can look at an example where ice cream sales are correlated with boat sales, for example, right? Because, and as ice cream sales go up, boat sales also go up. But if you look behind that data, now I'm just making this up because it makes intuitive sense. If you look behind this data, during the summer, you're more likely to buy ice cream, and during the summer, you're more likely to have a boat because you're not going to go boating in the winter. So you've got these two factors that are correlated, but that doesn't mean that ice cream sales cause boat sales to go up. They're not related. They're only related statistically, but that doesn't mean that one causes the other. So the same thing is going on here. Just because gameplay goes up and it's correlated with the amount of working hours going down, that doesn't mean that one causes the other. In fact, it could very well mean the opposite. It could be the fact that because men aren't working as much, they have more time to play video games. And this could be because of a wealth of reasons. For example, we just went through a recession. Men lost jobs. Younger men in particular work less and are more likely to be underemployed than are their older male counterparts. So this is one example where you might be out of the workforce, you might not be working as many hours just because of the economic conditions. Another reason, the number of men that are staying as stay-at-home parents is going up. Over the last 100 years, labor force participation amongst men has been going down, amongst women it's been going up. They've been kind of trending towards each other. So it's very likely, in fact, that men are just continuing this trend to drop out of the labor force in order to stay home with kids. And this just means that they have more time for video games because this just makes sense intuitively. Another reason it could happen, for example, we have transportation now, right? People now have portable gaming is more widespread. You have games on your phone. It's very possible that people could be playing on their way to work if they're using public transport, which could increase the number of time you're playing video games. Another thing, for example, we look at Japan. Japan has more game players than the U.S. does. Their video games have gotten more popular as they have in the U.S., and you don't see their labor force participation rate going down. So there are all these factors, and some of these things were mentioned in the article to their credit, but it was very disingenuous, I felt, to label your title like this. And, you know, there needs to be more transparency. If you've got an article like this, which is on such a thin basis, that you can't just go leading in with, oh, video games cause people to drop out of the labor force, because the evidence doesn't suggest that. It's just correlated. I mean, and even things they talked about, like addiction, right? They talked about video game addiction. It's very possible video game addiction rates may be going up over the last 15 years. Just MMOs are more prevalent. You know, you've got more realistic video games. Kids are starting younger. I don't even know. Like, there may be reasons, right, where addiction's going up. Well, they're skewing the trend. So you might have 1% of gamers that are addicted, that are playing way more than the rest of gamers. And because they're the ones that are dropping out of the labor force, or because they're the ones that have the problem, it's skewing the number overall. So overall, it's showing that gamers are spending, you know, maybe, or men are spending 1.2 hours more a week playing video games. But in reality, that could be, you know, 5% of people playing an extra 10 hours per week, and everyone else playing the same amount, and it's just skewing the data. So these are all things I felt was important to point out. Once again, I've linked the article below. You should go read it for yourself, just so that you have both sides of where you're coming from in the perspective. But these are just problems that I saw with the article. You know, being in college, taking statistics classes, you know, being a political science researcher, just seeing what's going on, I felt this article was very disingenuous. And from a column like the Upshot, which I have a lot of respect for, it was very unfortunate to see that. So that's where I'll wrap up this video for today. Thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Once again, make sure to check out that article below, just so that we're on the same page and you see both sides of the story. And if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys next time.